Sri Gurubhyo Namaha, and welcome to the Sri Vidya Temple's classes on chanting. We're currently doing a series on mantras that are used in pujas and homas, especially at the Sri Vidya Temple. And for this class, we're going to just finish up very briefly a couple of shlokas that were from the end of Ganapati Puja. Very simple, short shlokas. And then we'll go through the Sankalpam that we typically chant for temple pujas. Okay. So in the Ganapati Puja, we're all the way at the end. So actually, I'll start with the Ganapati prayer. Actually, I forgot my phone for Shruti. So I'm just going to take one quick minute and go grab my phone. I'll be right back. Om Shuklam Baradhar, excuse me. Shuklam Baradharam Vishnum Shashivarnan Chaturbhujam Prasanna Vadanandhyayet Sarva Vikhnopashantaye. Okay, my electronics are having trouble today. There we go. Okay. So we're at the end of Ganapati Puja. For the part where it says Namaskaram. So is there anyone who'd like to repeat the lines? Charuvanti, do you want to start us off?
Sure.
Okay. So we'll just do the Vakratunda Mahakaya. Vakratunda Mahakaya.
Vakratunda Mahakaya. Vakratunda Mahakaya.
Surya Koti Samaprabha.
Surya Koti Samaprabha. Surya Koti Samaprabha.
Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha.
Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha. Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha.
Good. Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva.
Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva. Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva.
Or you could also do this one, Nirvignam Kuru Me. Vignam Kuru Me. Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada.
Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada.
Okay, just make sure the karyeshu, the ka is dirgha. So hold that for the extra length
Karyeshu.
of time. And now the whole line. Nirvikhnam kuru me deva sarvakaryeshu sarvada.
Nirvignam kuru me deva sarvakaryeshu sarvada. Nirvignam kuru me deva sarvakaryeshu sarvada.
Good. Now the next line. This is where we take some of the prasadam from Ganapati, something that was offered to him like akshatas or flowers, and we take that and we either put it on our head or in our hair, or men will sometimes tuck it in the ear since they don't have long hair. So this line, Mahaganapati prasadam.
Mahaganapati prasadam. Mahaganapati prasadam.
Shirasa granhami.
Shirasa granhami. Shirasa granhami.
Good. So this is another example in the word granhami, where the way it's spelled, the H comes first and then the erna sound comes second. But because of this little rule that we have, the sounds get switched. So it becomes, you might hear some people say grihnami if they're from, certain parts of India. But in our tradition, we would say this as granhami. So it's first as grn, and then you hear the ha clearly, hami, granhami. Okay, so that's how you can say that. Let's do the whole line. Mahaganapati prasadam shirasa granhami.
Mahaganapati prasadam shirasa granhami. Mahaganapati prasadam shirasa granhami.
Good. And just you can also do holding Ganapati prasadam.
Oh, yeah.
Tip prasadam. Okay. Now the next line. Vigneshwaram yathasthanam.
Vigneshwaram yathasthanam. Vigneshwaram yathasthanam.
Pratisthapayami.
Pratisthapayami. Pratisthapayami.
Good. And here, vigne, gne, the gha is mahaprana. Yatha, tha is mahaprana. Sthanam, again, tha, mahaprana. And pratisthapayami. So first is tha, which is the dental T as a mahaprana. And then in pratisthapayami, the ta is the retroflex ta. So it's a different T sound, but it's also mahaprana. So it's ta, ta. Okay, pratisthapayami. Okay, so let's finish up with the very final Ganapati shloka at the end. And this shloka, as far as I know, this was given to us by Sri Matioli Saraswati, or Sri Amma, or Sri Akka, as some people call her.
Ektaji,
Yes.
Namaskaram.
Namaskaram.
Question. So we can do either way, like do the Yathasthanam and then do the Sankalpam, or we can do the Sankalpam and do the lastly at the Yathasthanam, right? The Ganapati.
You mean like the little movement of Ganapati when you say Yathasthanam?
Yeah, the Yathasthanam Pradashtayami means just moving of the Ganapati to the north, right?
As far as I know, you can do that at the end of the Ganapati Puja, and then go on with your Sankalpam, because the Sankalpam is for Devi Puja or Shiva Puja or whoever you're doing that day.
Okay, thank you.
That's my understanding. So this little shloka, Sarva Vignaharam Devam, is a very nice, short, easy shloka that Sri Amma recommends people to chant. So this can be chanted at any time for Ganapati blessings and overcoming obstacles. So this is included at the end of a puja, but you can also chant this if you're just doing arati to Ganapati. It's very nice shloka for that. So Charu Auntie will just do this one. Make sure. Sarva Vignaharan Devam.
Sarva Vignaharan Devam. Sarva Vignaharan Devam.
Very good. In the word Vigna, it's a very challenging place to pronounce the Mahaprana Gha because it's combined with a Na. So it's almost like the Gha comes out like at the same time as the Na. It's very challenging, but that's something that everybody can work on and practice and just isolate that sound or that one word and practice for a bit. Does anybody need the text for this Ganapati Puja? I just saw a message. Okay. It's in the, if you look in the main folder for the documents that we have for all the chanting classes. I'm not sure if you've seen that, but there's one for puja mantras. So if you give me a second, I can put the link to that.
Oh, I would be very grateful. Thank you.
Okay, let me just get the puja mantras link. Okay, I've just put it in the chat area. And if you look in there under Ganapati Puja, that's the one that we're doing. And then the one that we're doing next is the Sankalpam. So there's another folder for Sankalpam docs. So just give me one more second. Okay. All right, so let's do the next part of that line. Sarva Vigna Vivarchitam.
Sarva Vigna Vivarchidam. Sarva Vigna Vivarchidam.
Sarva Vigna Haran Devam. Sarva Vigna Vivarchitam.
Sarva Vigna Haran Devam. Sarva Vigna Vivarchidam. Sarva Vigna Haran Devam. Sarva Vigna Vivarchidam.
Sarva Siddhi Pradataram.
Sarva Siddhi Pradhataram. Sarva Siddhi Pradhataram.
Good. And here, notice that the Siddhi, Dhi is Mahaprana, but Da in Pradataram, that Da is regular, Alpa Prana. So no Mahaprana there. Next. Vande Hangananayakam.
Vandeham Gananayakam. Vandeham Gananayakam.
Sarva Siddhi Pradataram. Vande Hangananayakam.
Sarva Siddhi Pradhataram. Vandeham Gananayakam. Sarva Siddhi Pradhataram. Vandeham Gananayakam.
Very good. The only thing is it still sounds a little bit like the Da in Pradataram is coming out like a Mahaprana. It just sounds a little bit like
Pradhataram. Pradhataram.
That's it. Okay. All right. So any questions on Ganapati Puja before we go on?
Ektaji is Arandevam. We can use the Anuswaram, right?
In which place?
The Sarva Vigna Harandevam. So we can use him instead of him, we can use in, right?
Yes. Yes. Sometimes I'm used to doing things a certain way, so I may forget in that location, but always, always, aside from a bijakshara are a little bit separate, as you know, but in a regular word, like a regular shloka, you can always change the anuswara to the nasal corresponding for the following letter. So in this case, you're right. It's,
right?
Yeah. It would be the Haran Devam, as you said.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. All right, so let's go on to the Sankalpam document. Hope you all saw that. So for those looking at the, hold on one second. For those looking at the Tamil script, I apologize. I started to put the numbers and then the word crashed and it just obliterated it. So I did not have time to put the numbers in the Tamil. I will try to update that sometime today later. So the Tamil is there, but there's no numbers. So just hopefully you can do your best with that for the class, and then I'll follow up with the one with numbers in it. Okay, so this Sankalpam doc that I've prepared, it's based on what we do in the temple. And keep in mind, it's not written in stone. This does change from time to time because Aya will want to add a particular phrase, or sometimes because of things that happen at the temple, we'll actually add a new phrase. So for example, when the temple was, and it is specific to the temple, so we'll talk a little bit about how it needs to be modified if you're in a different place. Once we had the Atirudram Kumbhabhishekam back in 2010, the Sankalpam for temple pujas actually changed to include a certain phrase, which is something like Punaruddharana Mahakumbhabhisheka, and then the rest of what it used to be. So because of the fact that there was a Kumbhabhishekam at the temple, that extra phrase was added as a description. So things can change. So this is not written in stone, but this is a perfectly good sankalpam to use if you're doing a puja at the temple. Okay, so would anyone like to repeat the lines for this or the words? Okay, Muktidhara Amma, you're nodding your head.
Yes, I can try.
Okay, very good. So here there's no set, so a sankalpam is a statement in Sanskrit. It's not like a shloka or a Veda mantra. So it doesn't have any chandas. It doesn't have any meter. It's just like a long statement. And the statement is just describing who, what, why, when, where. The 5 basic questions that any story has. It's basically saying who is doing the puja, what puja are we doing, why are we doing that puja, like what's our purpose, where are we doing the puja, and when, in what time frame are we doing the puja. So it's a long description with a whole bunch of different details in it, like geographical details, Panchangam details in terms of the timing. So for this, I've added a bunch of commas, and these commas are where people tend to just pause slightly to make it a little bit easier to chant. So if you hear somebody like a trained pundit chanting, they'll also have pauses like this based on the meaning. And it makes it a little bit easier. And so the rules of chanting are not really applied in this. So you can follow the commas similarly to reading something in English or another language.
Ektaji?
Yes?
You're gonna chant the last part, the part of the Ganapati sloka later on for the practices?
So we went over the Ganapati shlokas that were in the documents. Was there anything else?
No. The 2 sloka, normally you do it to your own for practices, like a completely chanting the 2 lines together.
I'm not planning to do that because we're already at 10:25 and I want to make sure we can get to the Sankalpam.
Okay.
But if you have questions on that, I can record it later if you want.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Okay, sure. All right, so we'll start. Shubhe shobhane muhurte.
Shubhe shobhane muhurte. Shubhe shobhane muhurte.
Good. Adya brahmanaha.
Adya brahmanaha. Adya brahmanaha.
Good. And also, whatever melody I'm using, I'm just making it up. There's no set melody here. You can chant it as you like. So don't worry about that part. I'm just doing something so it's not all in one monotone, but it's totally flexible. Dvitiya parardhe.
Dvitiya parardhe. Dvitiya parardhe.
Shvetavaraha kalpe.
Shvetavaraha kalpe. Shvetavaraha kalpe.
Okay, let's try linking that line together. Shubhe shobhana muhurte adya brahmanaha dvitiya parardhe shvetavaraha kalpe.
Shubhe shobhane muhurte adya brahmanaha dvitiya parardhe shvetavaraha kalpe. Shubhe shobhane muhurte adya brahmanaha dvitiya parardhe shvetavaraha kalpe.
Good, very good. Vaivasvatamanvantare.
Vaivasvatamanvantare. Vaivasvatamanvantare.
Ashtavimshatitame.
Ashtavimshatitame. Ashtavimshatitame.
That's good. The very last part is just tame.
Yeah.
So there's no holding.
No holding here.
So just try one more time. Ashtavimshatitame.
Ashtavimshatitame. Ashtavimshatitame.
That's it. Kali Yuge.
Kali Yuge. Kali Yuge.
Prathame Pade.
Prathame Pade. Prathame Pade.
Okay, now let's try linking that part together. Vaivasvatamanvantare ashtavimshatitame Kali Yuge prathame pade.
Vaivasvatamanvantare ashtavimshatitame Kali Yuge prathame pade. Vaivasvatamanvantare ashtavimshatitame Kali Yuge prathame pade.
Very good. So up until this point, this is all describing certain very, very large time periods. So we haven't even gotten down to the level of Panchangam yet. It's referring to the lifetime of Brahma, and I don't know all the specific details on this, but according to sort of Vedic mythology, the lifespan of Brahma is like many, many, many millions or billions of years, something like that. So this is just describing like where we are in the lifespan of one cosmic Brahma, which kalpa we're in, which manvantaram. These are all just divisions of time that are very, very large, like hundreds of thousands or even millions of years. And then you'll notice the Kali Yuga, we're in the Kali Yuga, which most people are familiar with. And Prathame Pade, the first quarter of the Kali Yuga is what we're saying. So that all is not going to change based on where you are. This next part would change because now it's talking about roughly where on the planet we're located. So Krauncha Dvipe is specific to America. This particular, not America, but this particular continent. Krauncha Dvipe, Meru Ruttare Parshve has to do with where we are in relation to the Meru mountain, Mount Meru in India. Shalivahana Shakabde, I'm not totally sure about. So that's sort of like where on the planet roughly we are. Okay. Right, so if you were in India, normally they'll say Jambu Dvipe. In other parts, I'm not sure. They might have specific names for those. I haven't researched it. So you can check with your local temple priest or do some Googling online if you're in another place like Europe or Malaysia or New Zealand, Australia, different places. They may have different names that people have come up with for that. So you can see what you can find out. But for now, we'll go on with the way that we do it for the temple. Krauncha Dvipe.
Krauncha Dvipe. Krauncha Dvipe.
Meru Ruttare Parshve.
Meru Ruttare Parshve. Meru Ruttare Parshve.
Good. Shalivahana. Shalivahana Shakabde.
Shalivahana Shakabde. Shalivahana Shakabde.
Asmin Vartamane.
Asmin Vartamane. Asmin Vartamane.
And here there's a small typo where it says Vyavaharike, that should be Vyava. Vyava. So the A should be Dirgha in Vyava. Just keep a note of that. Vyavaharike.
Vyavaharike. Vyavaharike.
Good. Prabhavadi Shashti.
Prabhavadi Shashti. Prabhavadi Shashti.
Samvatsarana Madhye.
Samvatsaranam Madhye. Samvatsaranam Madhye.
Prabhavadi Shashti Samvatsaranam Madhye.
Prabhavadi Shashti Samvatsaranam Madhye. Prabhavadi Shashti Samvatsaranam Madhye.
It's very good. Just watch out for the final dirgha in Samvatsaranam. Samvatsaranam Madhye. Okay.
Okay.
But otherwise, very good. Chandramanena.
Chandramanena. Chandramanena.
Okay, let's go back to Asmin Vartamane and try that full section. Asmin Vartamane Vyavaharike Prabhavadi Shashti Samvatsaranam Madhye Chandramanena
Asmin vartamane Vyavaharike Prabhavadi Shakti Samvatsaranam Madhye Chandramanena Asmin Vartamane Vyavaharike Prabhavadi Shakti Samvatsaranam Madhye Chandramanena.
Very good. So this next part, again, we're getting into some specific details that you would change based on your location. So America Nama Khande, that's like America. So sometimes we'll just take the name of the city or wherever and just say it with a Sanskrit accent, basically. So America is the country that we're in. Rush, that R-A-Sh, that's just spelling Rush, our local town in English transliteration. Rush Kshetre. Then this next part where it mentions the Mahapunya Nadi Tire. So this is Nadi Tire means on the riverbank. So we're mentioning the river that's close to us. So these are not really necessary things, but it's just nice to sort of think of the local natural features and sort of visualize them as holy rivers, similar to how we talk about the holy Ganga or Yamuna rivers or something in India. So Genesee is the name of the closest river in Rochester. So for your location, you could find out what's the closest river, and you could say the name of that, like if it's the Hudson River, then Hudson Mahapunya Nadi Tire, like that. You can pick your own river near to you.
Ekta ji,
Uh-huh.
for the North America, I heard the name Aindarakhande.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I have heard a lot of people say, they'll say Aindrakhande, Ramanaka Varshe, things like that. And they'll even say like Uttara for North America. So there's a lot of variation on this. And I'm sure in different parts of India, they'll do different things. So even in South India, there's, different traditions on what you say during a Sankalpa. The whole point of this is to sort of fix in your own mind what you're doing and why you're doing it. So the details are there, but there's a lot of variation. So I don't get very hung up on the details, but more of focusing on why I'm doing this. What's my purpose?
Okay.
What are the blessings? But this is a traditional way of doing things. So we're honoring that tradition. But yeah, if there's a certain way that you're used to doing it, like saying Aindrakhande, definitely you can say that as well. That's very common for North America. Or even saying the state that you're in, New York, Rashtre or something. Where are we? Okay, so who would like to repeat the lines for the next section? Anyone? Anyone?
I can go.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, so we're starting with America Nama Khande. America Nama Khande.
America Nama Khande. America Nama Khande.
Good. Rash Kshetre.
Rash Kshetre. Rash Kshetre.
Janasi Mahapunya Nadi Tire.
Janasi Mahapunya Nadi Tire. Janasi Mahapunya Nadi Tire.
Very good. Now we come to the part where we're talking about the pitam that we're in. So if you're at home, you could just not say any part of this. Or if you happen to have a name Like sometimes Aya would have, when he gives Diksha to people, he'll give a certain Pitam name to their Murti. Like if somebody has a Murti of Meenakshi Amma, he'll name their Pitam. He'll name their sort of their shrine room according to that. So if you have a particular name for your home Murti and puja practice, then you could include that here. Sri Rajarajeswari.
Sri Rajarajeswari. Sri Rajarajeswari.
Ashtabandhana.
Ashtabandhana. Ashtabandhana.
Good. And just notice there's a Mahaprana, bandha, bandhana. And this is referring.
Ashtabandhana. Ashtabandhana.
Good. And I believe this is referring to the Ashtabandhanam is a material made of 8 substances that are ground into a paste. And that's what is used to fix the Mula Murti or the main Murti. So if you come to the temple and you happen to look at Devi, the main image of Rajarajeswari Amma, you'll see at the base of her where she is placed onto a large granite block. I think it's a granite. There's like a reddish or dark reddish sort of gum or paste all the way around the base of her. And that's the Ashtabandhanam. And so there's very specific ingredients that are used in that, which are important for fixing the Murti in a certain place. So that's what it's referring to, a Murti that is fixed in place using that Ashtabandhanam, which is very traditional in most temples. Then when we talk about Punaruddharana Kumbhabhishekam, that's referring to the fact that we've had a Kumbhabhishekam. After 12 years of first installing, we've also done a reinstallation of Devi with Kumbhabhishekam. Okay, so we'll go on. Punaruddharana Kumbhabhisheka.
Punaruddharana Kumbhabhisheka. Punaruddharana Kumbhabhisheka.
Good. Pratisthapana Paripurna.
Pratisthapana Paripurna. Pratisthapana Paripurna.
Mahapunyapitha Mantre.
Mahapunyapitha Mantre. Mahapunyapitha Mantre.
Good. Let's try the whole phrase. Sri Rajarajeswari Ashtabandhana Punaruddharana Kumbhabhisheka Pratisthapana Paripurna Mahapunyapitha Mantre.
Sri Rajarajeswari Ashtabandhana Punaruddharana Kumbhabhisheka Pratisthapana Paripurna Mahapunyapitha Mantre. Shri Rajarajeswari Ashtabandhana Punaruddharana Kumbhabhisheka Pratisthapana Paripurna Mahapunyapitha Mantre.
Very good. The only thing is there seems to be a slight tendency in the word bandhana to transfer the Mahaprana to the bha. So,
Okay.
So just make sure it's bandhana. Okay, but very good otherwise. Okay, so next we come to, you'll see a section where there's a bunch of parentheses and it'll say Samvatsare, Ayane, Rato, Mase. So these are all places where we're reciting the Panchangam. And Panchangam literally means 5 limbs or 5 pieces. So it's referring to 5 special pieces of timing information. And in addition to those 5 specific things, there's another 5. So you'll see 10 sort of blanks here. So the first one is year, then ayana is the half year. Ritau is the ritu or the season. Maase refers to the month. Pakshe refers to the 2-week period when the moon is either waxing or waning. Shubhatito, the Titi refers to a certain kind of a day period. It's not a solar day, it's a lunar day. So it has different timings for when it starts and ends. But the Titi is when we talk about like it's Ashtami today, or it's Navami, or it's Amavasya. Those are Titis. The Vasara is the day of the week. The Nakshatra, you all know, it's the so what it refers to is if you think of the earth and then the stars are all around it, like different constellations in the sky, as the moon travels, it lines up with those different constellations. So when the moon is lined up with a particular constellation or nakshatra, then we say that that is the nakshatra for that day. But it refers to the moon. I mean, the stars are all around us. It's not like they change. What's changing is that the moon is lining up with a particular constellation, so that the earth, the moon, and that nakshatra are forming a line. So that's what we're referring to when we say that it's a particular nakshatra that day. Then the yoga and the karana, these are 2 small aspects, divisions of time. So they're just, different astrological divisions of time. And these are things that you can find in a Panchangam. And I use an online one called mypanchang.com. We use that for the temple. And so typically what you do is whatever the Panchangam was for sunrise of that day, you'll use those details. In some cases, you might change it based on what it is at that specific time, if that's important to you. But generally you can take the sunrise calculation and use that for the entire day. And that's what we follow usually at the temple. So what we can do is we can just practice the names like Samvatsare. Samvatsare.
Samvatsare. Samvatsare.
Good. And then this would either be Dakshinayane or Uttarayane. Dakshinayane.
Dakshinayane. Dakshinayane.
Next is the season. Ritau.
Ritau. Ritau.
Mase.
Mase. Mase.
Pakshe.
Pakshe. Pakshe.
Shubhatithau.
Shubhatitau. Shubhatitau. Tithau.
Good. Vasarayuktayam.
Vasarayuktayam. Vasarayuktayam.
Nakshatrayuktayam.
Nakshatrayuktayam. Nakshatrayuktayam.
Yoga.
Yoga. Yoga.
Karana.
Karana. Karana.
Good. And if you're at home and you don't have a Panchangam handy, or that's not easy for you, you can always say Lalita Nama Samvatsare, Lalita Nama Ayane, Lalita Nama Ratau, and so on. And at the end, Shubha Yoga, Shubha Karana. There's no harm in that. It's basically like saying, Devi is everything. Devi is all time. So you can use that if you don't know the specifics. But in the temple, we do use the specific details. Okay, so going on to the next section. Evam guna.
Evam guna. evam guna
Visheshana Vishishtayam
Visheshana Vishishtayam Visheshana Vishishtayam
Asyam Shubhatithau
Asyam Shubhatithau Asyam Shubhatithau
Mamopatta Samasta
Mamopatta samasta
Duridakshayatara
Duritakshayattvara
Shri Parameshwara Parameshwari Prityartham
Shri Parameshwari Prityartham Shri Parameshwari Prityartham
Good. Asmakam
Asmakam
Okay, now we come to a section where we're going to start listing who is included in this Sankalpam. So either who is doing it or who we're sort of mentioning to direct the blessings towards. So the first one that we do is Aya's names because he's our guru for those of us who are doing the pujas in the temple. If you happen to have a different parampara, you could include your own guru and guru patni. Or you can leave this out. It's not a necessary one if you may not have a guru or something like that. But we include it as part of our guru parampara. Haritasa gotrodbhavasya
Haritasa
Shri Chaitanyanandanatha Sharmanaha
Shri Chaitanyanandanatha Sharmanaha Shri Chaitanyanandanatha Sharmanaha
Anuradha Nakshatra Jatasya
Anuradha Nakshatra Jatasya
Dharma Patni Jnanamba Sameta
Dharma Patni Jnanamba Sameta Dharma Patni Jnanamba Sameta
Hasta Nakshatra Jatayaha
Hasta Nakshatra Jatayaha Hasta Nakshatra Jatayaha
Saha Kutumbanam Mitra Kutumbanam
Saha Kutumbanam Mitra Kutumbanam Saha Kutumbanam Mitra Kutumbanam
Shishya Prashishya Kutumbanam
Shishya Prashishya Kutumbanam Shishya Prashishya Kutumbanam.
Good. So this is just listing Aya's Gotram, his name, his Nakshatram, and then his wife's name and Nakshatram. And then Saha Kutumbanam, Mitra Kutumbanam, or sometimes we'll say Bandhu Mitra Kutumbanam, just means with all the family and all the friends' families as well. So it's just kind of broadening out who's included in this prayer. And then Shishya Prashishya Kutumbana means all the disciples as well, and the disciples, because he's a guru, families. Okay, next, if you were in the temple, you would, whoever's doing Sankalpam for that puja, you would find out their Gotram and say Gotrod Bhavasya. And then if it's a husband and wife, you would say the husband name and Sharmanaha, the husband's Nakshatra. Then you say Dharma Patni and the wife's name, Amba Sameta, and then her Nakshatram. And then you go on to the next person and so on. If it's a single man there, you just say his Gotram name and Nakshatra. And same thing if it's a single lady, that's how you do Gotram, her name, and her Nakshatram. Okay, so that part is pretty clear. And then the next part, we're just sort of saying, you know, everybody. Nana Gotrodbhavasya, like all the different Gotrams that people everywhere in the world have, all the different nakshatras, the various nakshatras they may have been born under. Sarvesham Bhakta Mahajananam. So all the people, all the bhaktas in the world. So now we're expanding it to, you know, include everybody. You know, we're not leaving anybody out. We're including everybody here because when we do a puja in the temple, it's for the whole world, really. So that's that part. And then finally, so we'll talk about Kshema and everything after. Okay, so would anyone else like to repeat the lines? Anyone for today? Okay, Daniel. Okay. All right, so we'll start from Sahakutumbanam, Mitra Kutumbanam. Sahakutumbanam, Mitra Kutumbanam.
Sahakutumbanam, Mitra Kutumbanam. Sahakutumbanam, Mitra Kutumbanam.
Good. Nana Gotrodbhavasya.
Nana Gotrodbhavasya. Nana Gotrodbhavasya.
Good. In Gotrod, it sounds a little bit short. So just make sure it's Gotrod. The O should be slightly longer, but going on. Nana Nakshatrodbhavasya.
Nana Nakshatrodbhavasya. Nana Nakshatrodbhavasya.
Good. Sarvesham Bhakta Mahajananam.
Sarvesham Bhakta Mahajananam. Sarvesham Bhakta Mahajananam.
Good. Sahakutumbanam Mitra Kutumbanam.
Sahakutumbanam Mitra Kutumbanam. Sahakutumbanam Mitra Kutumbanam.
Good. So now we've finished talking about who is involved in this puja, or who is to receive the blessings. And the next part starts to talk about what are the specific types of blessings that we're requesting from God. So this is a very all-purpose, general purpose, all-around request for blessings. It's kshema, stairya, virya, so things like strength, patience, ayurarogyam, so good health, long life, aishvaryanam, different kinds of wealth, financial wealth, but also other kinds of wealth, like wealth of friendship, wealth of good community relations, you know, everything is coming under aishvarya. And then finally, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So the four main aims in life, everything is covered. Samasta mangala avaptyartam. So all the auspicious things we should have, but all the duritas, or the difficult experiences, those should be washed away. So this is a very common, typical kind of prayer. And then finally, it ends with sthala kalyanartham, desha kalyanartham, loka kalyanartham. So for the purpose of the welfare, the well-being of the sthalam, the place, the desha, the country, and loka. Loka is basically referring to the entire world, or you could say all the worlds, all the realms in the universe. And then Sri Guru Varaprasada Siddhartham. Sri Guru Varaprasada, for the blessings of the Guru as well. All right, so we'll practice that section. Kshemasthirya.
Kshemasthirya. Kshemasthirya.
Very good. In sthairya, it's more like an I sound. It sounded like you were saying a little more like A. So just keep in mind that's I, sthairya.
Kshemasthirya.
Good. Virya,
Virya.
Vijaya,
Vijaya.
Ayurarogya,
Ayurarogya. Ayurarogya.
Aishwaryanam,
Aishwaryanam. Aishwaryanam.
Abhivriddhyartham,
Abhivriddhyartham. Abhivriddhyartham.
Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha,
Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha.
good. Chaturvidha Phala,
Chaturvidha Phala. Chaturvidha Phala.
Purushartha Siddhyartham,
Purushartha Siddhyartham. Purushartha Siddhyartham.
good. And just keep in mind in the word Artha or Artham, it's a Mahaprana Tha, Artha. Okay. Next one. Samasta Mangala Avaptyartham,
Samasta Mangala Avaptyartham. Samasta Mangala Avaptyartham.
good. Samasta Durita Upashantyartham,
Samasta Durita Upashantyartham. Samasta Durita Upashantyartham.
good. Ishtakamyartha Siddhyartham,
Ishtakam Yartha Siddhyartham. Ishtakam Yartha Siddhyartham.
okay. So
Yartha.
in Kamyartha, the A is Dirgha, Kamyartha. But then in Siddhyartham, it's a Hrasva A in the Artham. So there's a slight difference in how you'll say those words. So the first one's like Kamyartha, and second one Siddhyartham.
Ishtakam Yartha Siddhyartham.
Good. Sthala Kalyanartham,
Sthala Kalyanartham. Sthala Kalyanartham.
good. Desha Kalyanartham,
Desha Kalyanartham. Desha Kalyanartham.
very good. Just keep in mind the holding on al, kalya, kalya.
Kalyanartham.
Okay. Loka kalyanartham,
Loka Kalyanartham. Loka Kalyanartham.
that's it. Sri Guruvara Prasada Siddhyartham,
Sri Guruvara Prasad Siddhyartham. Sri Guruvara Prasad Siddhyartham.
good. So for the final part, we say what we're doing. So anytime you see karishye, that means you're saying, I am doing such and such. It could be homam, it could be japam, it could be puja, whatever it is. This is where you say what you're doing. So in our case, in the temple, we might be doing like something in the morning, or we might be doing it in the evening. So we have pradhana kale, means in the morning. And if it were evening, we would say sayankale. So for an evening puja, we would say sayankale. Then we say what we're doing. So most daily pujas in the temple, it could be Sri Sukta Vidhana. So a puja based on Sri Suktam, and then Shorasha Upachara Puja. So the 16 offerings puja. If we were doing it at night, sometimes people will do a different puja. Instead of Sri Sukta Puja, they'll do Raudrikarana Puja. So that would be, Sri Raudrikarana Shorasha Upachara Puja or something like that. So based on what you're doing, you can modify this part. Okay. So we'll just say that it's morning. Pradhana Kale.
Pradhana Kale. Pradhana Kale.
Sri Sukta Vidhana Shodasha Upachara Pujang Karishye.
Sri Sukta Vidhana Sotasha Upachara Pujang Karishye. Sri Sukta Vidhana Sotasha Upachara Pujang Karishye.
Very good. Just watch out in the word pujang. Those are both dirgha. So it's like pujang. So just make sure you pronounce them fully. Pujang karishye. Okay. We'll try the whole line together. Pradhana Kale Shri Sukta Vidhana Shodasha Upachara Pujang Karishye.
Pradhana Kale Sri Sukta Vidhana Sodasha Upachara Pujang Karishye. Pradhana Kale Sri Sukta Vidhana Sodasha Upachara Pujang Karishye.
Good. And at this point, whoever was holding the rice for the Sankalpam would go and offer that rice to the lotus feet of Devi. And after doing that, they just, you touch yourself and say mama. So that's the procedure for doing Sankalpam. Any questions on what we've done so far? This is the main Sankalpam. Okay. So one thing that comes up is like, people don't always know how to spell or pronounce the nakshatras. So it's about 11:05. So if anyone needs to drop off, no problem. We've basically finished doing the Sankalpam. But I thought it would be good just to go through the pronunciation of the nakshatras, because that can be difficult to find anywhere. So is there anyone who's okay with repeating after the nakshatra pronunciation? I hear somebody.
This is Rupa.
Rupa, auntie, you want to do that? Okay, good. All right, so we'll start. So this is, I've listed the nakshatras at the end of the Sankalpam, just as a list. So this is not something that we chant as part of the Sankalpam. This is just a list provided so that people can see the spelling and pronunciation of the names of the nakshatras. Kritika.
Kritika. Kritika.
Rohini.
Rohini. Rohini.
Mrigashirsha.
Mrigashirsha. Mrigashirsha.
Artra.
Artra. Artra.
Good. Punarvasu.
Punarvasu. Punarvasu.
Pushya.
Pushya. Pushya.
Ashlesha.
Ashlesha. Ashlesha.
Good. There's a little more holding on the ish. Ashlesha.
Ashlesha. Ashlesha.
Good. Magha.
Magha. Magha.
Good. The second time I heard the gha mahaprana. Okay. Purva Phalguni.
Purva Phalguni. Purva Phalguni.
Good. Uttara Phalguni.
Uttara Phalguni. Uttara Phalguni.
Hasta.
Hasta. Hasta.
Chitra.
Tra. Chitra,
Swati,
Vati, Swati,
Vishakha,
Vishakha, Vishakha,
okay, Anuradha,
Anuradha, Anuradha,
Jyeshtha,
Jyeshtha, Jyeshtha,
Mula,
Mula, Mula,
Purvashadha,
Purvashadha, Purvashadha.
So here, this one's a little bit tricky because the last sound is a erdha. The erdha is the retroflex erdha, and then it's also a mahaprana, like ashardha, ashardha. So that's a little bit, that's one I find a little bit harder to pronounce. And then the next one, uttarashardha,
Uttarashadha, Uttarashadha,
good. Shravana,
Shravana, Shravana,
Dhanishtha,
Dhanishta, Dhanishta,
Shatabhisha,
Sadabhisha, Satabhisha,
so the bhi is mahaprana, shatabhisha.
Sadabhisha, Sadabhisha.
Good. And one thing is, I know you don't have the numbers in the document, so it's hard for you to see which sound it should be. This one, it's a T like Tom. So this would be ta, ta, da, da. This would just be like a one or no number. So what the way you pronounce it, it was slightly like a da, which would have been the 3 if the 3 were there. Okay, so just keep that in mind. It's shata, ta, not da. Okay. Purvabhadra,
Purvabhadra, Purvabhadra,
Uttarabhadra,
Uttarabhadra, Uttarabhadra.
good. And sometimes you'll see these as Purvabhadrapada and Uttarabhadrapada. And some of the other nakshatras, you'll see different variations, like in different parts of India, they may call it something different. Like I've seen Puba Nakshatra. I don't think that's Sanskrit though. Instead of Dhanishta, sometimes you'll see Sravishta. So sometimes in the Vedas, they'll have slightly different names for the nakshatras, but these are the most common that we use today. Then the final ones, Revati,
Revati, Revati,
Ashvini,
Ashvini, Ashvini,
Bharani.
Bharani, Bharani.
Good. So those are the nakshatras. Any questions on those? Okay. All right, very good. So that was our class on Sankalpam and the nakshatra names. Okay. So if any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we'll end the class. Okay, I think everyone's all
Thank
clear.
you.
So thank you very much for
Thank you.
joining, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Amma.